The time of the war was over. So there we were, the leaders of NBC and Apaadaap, the representative of Overdose. We had sat there for 6 minutes, talking about the terms of their surrender. He had accepted, not realizing what he had gotten himself into. We had basically written it so if they messed up, everything would be over for them. They would have to start from scratch. The point of the surrender was not to end war, it was to give ourselves power. Power that we did not need. The leaders of Overdose did not accept this at first. They called us communists. They basically compared us to that of the Soviet Union. We had accepted that we had become monsters. However, that would not stop us. We would continue to grow our power until this day. Later, we had decided to surrender as well, so both teams met in a crossfire and stopped the fighting. This is how the war was over. Apaadaap had realized that it was best for his people if they surrendered. However, he and his people decided to split ways. Overdose was temporarily over until they could find a more stable home. Luckily, our double agent had found out where they lived and had sent us the coordinates of their new base. We tried to make our way over there, but he betrayed us once again. He had led us straight into a trap where their entire team tried to kill us. I didn't record this part because I didn't think it was that important and I was busy fighting, but later, they also apologized for their actions, and it wasn't their fault. Our double agent had tried to convince them, and it would be their undoing. So there we were, sitting in the chairs, discussing their surrender. Apaadaap couldn't believe they went down without big fight. He had thought it would become as big of a conflict as World War II, bringing in outside people from other servers to help win, but that wouldn't be the case. They would surrender with no fight. They would later try to rename and rebuild their kingdom, but it wouldn't work. Their leadership had been torn into tatters. Their banner was burned, and they had nothing left except their honor. Little did I know, they had no honor left. Whatever honor they had, they lost it at the terms of surrender. Their entire team watched in shame as the screen recording happened. Their entire team hung their heads low that day. They vowed never to lose a battle ever again. They also vowed never to start a battle. Those two things don't coincide. Our team, however, had vowed to fight. If anyone slipped up, we would be there and we would end them in a second. No hesitation. Our entire team immediately got geared up. We later tried to grind and fight the dragon so we could get better gear in the event of another catastrophe. This battle was lucky, and we barely made it through, but with the power of our weapons and our hearts, we made it through with little casualties. One critical flaw in our original plan had occurred, however. We had originally planned for their entire team to give up everything they had and start from scratch, become nothing but humble farmers. We didn't add that in the draft of the paper, so it wasn't in the contract that they signed. We realized this mistake later, and it would cost us. Tensions on the server were rising. The United Nations met one final time to discuss the breaking up. We didn't want to stay together anymore, because it was unfair for the other teams that had to fight. All members of Overdose had returned to their original teams. NBC had refused to accept whichever members were there. Me and Platypus Planet continued to work on our base, grinding the Ender Dragon until we could get enough levels to finally enchant our stuff with very overpowered stuff. The only battle left to fight was the Battle of Dignity. All people that had fought in the war had realized there was nothing left for them. They had decided all to take breaks. But while we were offline, the rest of the server, all of the new members, everyone else, was grinding up and preparing to fight their own little battle. They were preparing to fight a civil war. We weren't allowed to fight, so we chose not to. The battle would not affect us at all, but it would definitely affect the rules other server members had to play on the world. After the United Nations Summit dissolved, I met with Android afterwards. Android's the leader of the server. We had discussed running for president of the server. Me and another member, Mythic, had decided to run for president. We both chose our vice presidents very wisely, and in about a week or so, we would later do a battle that would decide the fate of the server. The battle for dignity was over. The battle for presidency was about to begin. My presidential debate was arguably the best of them all. While Mythic gave an incredibly good speech, he only got about a 40% audience approval rating. I got only a 60, but it was still better than his. My debate was all about bringing power to the server's members. I had decided to give up my power and return to a life of prosperity and peace. While everyone else was at school, me and Platypus were at home doing homework. It only took us about an hour, so when we got online, we tried even harder to finish building our castle. This wouldn't work very well, so we got frustrated and tried to build a mob farm, which also didn't work that well. We had tried to get fireworks for our newly acquired elytra. The sugarcane farm had worked very well, which producing over 100,000 sugarcane per day. Later, we had tried to make a creeper farm, which didn't work as well. It only produced about 100 gunpowder a day. It would take us years to catch up to the other server members, so we thought. Apparently, they had also had a shortage of fireworks. This would become one of the most valuable items on the server.